Vanakkam, Namaste, and blessings to everyone. This is Dr. Bairavee Balasubramanian, PhD, the Sky Priestess. So, the new moon has gone exact. It's a very special new moon, actually. There's one aspect of it I haven't talked about, and maybe since I hadn't talked about it, it came coming up at me in my meditations. You see, this new moon in Gemini, 2 degrees Gemini, is not only trine Saturn and 1 degrees Aquarius, it's also trine the Super-Galactic Center and 1 degrees Libra, which makes this new moon an extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary moment of potential for all of us, where we get to rewrite the syntax that we use to interpret our reality, what is around us, and the superstructure that ultimately tries to come back and give us meaning to deal with the day to day. We talked a little bit about micro level dramaturgy and how that affects the collective in the previous video. But with the supergalactic center, Saturn, and the new moon all aligned, what other opportunity also comes up for us is the opportunity for us to let go of old energy thought forms and bodies, whether it's our own past life thought forms, or whether it's thought forms of other people, or whether it's thought forms running around in the collective. It gives us the opportunity to let these go, either through the recitation of certain mantras or certain spiritual practices that actually allow us to transcend these old patterns and habits. I'm just coming out of a meditation now, which is why I'm still a little bit not quite in this reality yet. But no, it's not just me being sleepy. I was not allowed to sleep the whole night. But one of the things that came up in my meditation is very much the need to recognize the importance of clearing these old thought forms, and to realize that our own thought forms have echoes through timelines and lifetimes. It's not just about who we are right now. Contemporary spirituality is very, very myopic. It looks at the way it's characterized in the mainstream, it's extraordinarily myopic. It's trying to look at what you are in the here and now without recognizing the importance of context, the importance of past lives, the importance of parallel lives, and lives happening in dimensions that we can't see, because it's all really interconnected. So at this time, the mantras and the traditions that have come to me, and I think you've known me for long enough to know that I've been walking around this planet enough to have some experience with most major traditions. And the mantra and memories that came to me are very much of the Buddhist tradition. Like I said, I was not allowed to sleep. Something was like, nope, you have work. I said, okay, fine. And and what I found is, actually, for those of you who are interested in the Buddhist tradition, at this time the recitation of Om Mani Padme Hum, or another variant is Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum is the Tibetan version. The recitation of this mantra is something that actually brings a greater level of compassion, not only for yourself, but also especially when directed to energies of the collective that have yet to move on. It can be extraordinarily useful, because like I said, we don't talk about clearing the space of what we have held through different streams of time. Again, I'm not groggy and sleepy. I've just been in a very deep place and I'm coming this out. So, it's fresh. Language is still struggling to form. But effectively, Om Mani Padme Hum, meditations on Avalokiteshvara, and meditations on the Medicine Buddha, meditations on Amitabha, would be extremely useful at this time for anyone who was interested in doing that profound clearing work. Again, the mental density that we are all living in right now is not just a product of now, it is a product of millennia. And we need to understand that, it's not just enough for us to have positive thoughts. All of these aspects of ourselves, all of these aspects of ourselves from all different times must also undergo this process of purification and clearing. So, this is what I have been doing with my night. And it certainly has already yielded quite a bit of benefits. It's been quite fruitful. So I would certainly suggest looking these up. especially the meditation on the medicine Buddha for someone who either is suffering for health issues or someone who has had a particularly traumatic past life dealing with health issues. That would be a very good mantra to recite at this time. It's just that sometimes we forget to have compassion for ourselves, whether it's from the events that have happened in this lifetime, but also events in lifetimes that we can't remember. And that lack of compassion is actually what leads to a greater fragmentation of what happens in our evolutionary paths. So, this is a good day to bring all of that back together and to purify with recitation of mantras, just or energies that allow us to once again align with the truth of spirit. So obviously you can do this in other traditions. You can do this in different ways, but this is certainly just what came to me last night. Remember, it is the new moon, trine Saturn in Aquarius, trine the Super-Galactic Center. It is a time where contracts can be cleared and rewritten. So it is also a very good time for you to speak to whatever you understand as your guidance, your system of being or belief. I'm not going to push anything on you. That's not my way. To speak to what are the terms and conditions, what are the nature of the agreement that brings you here. What are you here to do? How are you here to do it? This is really when we open up. This is when all that affirmations and all those mantras actually have an extraordinary power, because the universe is highly receptive right now. Just bear in mind that a lot of the times the parts of ourselves that we fail to acknowledge have their own mantras going on. And a mantra is basically just a statement of intention. I was telling someone the other day, she was very interested in a particular mantra from the Hindu tradition, and I said, you know what it is? It's a rap song. If you translate the mantras, it's literally the gods going, I'm so and so, I'm wearing this, I've got that vehicle, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. There's literally one mantra that's literally about a god breaking the bones of ghosts. It's basically a rap song, And then she laughed about it, but it's true actually. That is what a mantra is. So even if you don't know what to do about it, simply a very clearly worded intention, very clearly stated intention, is more than enough, even if you just don't know where to start. So one of the things I would say is this is also a time where people can get very caught in their heads. And they get caught in the old mental loops, in the scripts that they've learned in childhood, in words, in ideas that they've been carrying through lifetimes and timelines. And this is where we can actually dump a lot of that. So, dump it, burn it down, let it go. It hasn't worked. It's not going to start working now. At the same time, people are quite hesitant to let go of these loops and scripts, even if they feel that they're suffering from them, because they don't know what comes next. Very often, we keep filling the space that should be a reverent space of silence with our own words, our own ideas, our own narratives, because we don't know what to do with that silence. But I was saying this in my Tier 23 video the other day, that if you think about the energy of Gemini as sound, as noise, or perhaps even as music, what we forget is that music does not exist without pauses. It is the pauses that actually make the song a song. Because if you look at a script of musical notation, right? You look at the notes. It is the pauses that actually make each sound have a meaning and have a place. So when people talk about Gemini, they're talking about the stream and flow of information, and that's just one part of it. The other part of it is also the pause. Because even when we're speaking, if we do not have the right pauses, no one is going to know the beginning of your sentence to the end of your sentence. There's actually a joke I read a long time ago, and it was this guy who was listening to a speech. I think it might have been Churchill listening to a speech in German. And he's looking at his translator to, find out what the speech is. And the speaker is going on and on and on and on. And Churchill's like, come on, man, what is he saying? And he goes, well, I'm waiting for the verb. It's a bit like that. You have to have that thing that makes a sentence into a sentence, a statement into a statement. There needs to be a structure. There needs to be a pause. There needs to be an allowance for a place where movement is free-flowing and another allowance for where places need to be still. It's also at the basis of all interior design and all art that truly moves people. There's space where, everything is full, and then there's a space where things are empty. And that's also very much the wisdom of Gemini. And unfortunately, a lot of Gemini forgets this because it's too interested in filling what it thinks is, the spaces with information. This is where Gemini loses its own head and its own wisdom, and it goes in too many different ways. So sometimes it's not about the message. It's not about what you are thinking and what you are doing and what your narrative is. Sometimes it's literally just getting comfortable with the silences and knowing which parts of them need you to fill them. If you think about just the nature of matter, just the fundamental constitution of like what seems to be a solid wall, if you go into it at the subatomic level, you're basically seeing particles with a ton of space around them. Even our illusions of solidity and rigidity, they don't hold up at the subatomic level. Everything is in movement, everything is in vibration, everything is in motion at the physical sense. And yet, there is this illusion of, yes, it's rigid, it's strong. It's funny coming from a Capricorn, but hey, life has taught me many things. But so, yes, be comfortable with the silences. Be comfortable in not knowing. Be comfortable in not pushing. If you can get your head around that, and in fact, allow that to be part of your key practice. This is the kind of energy that does not actually allow us to go anywhere. Is the kind of energy that, if this is not part of your core practice, it's not actually going to go anywhere. It's the kind of energy that just allows you to get stuck in things. Like I said, not fully back in this reality yet, still very much somewhere else, but I felt like I had to do this right now, so I'm following it. But take the time to enjoy the pause. If you don't know the answer, great. If you know the answer, great. Both are exactly the same thing. A long time ago, my friend was asking me, because I was one of those people who taught herself and finished high school very fast and just did a ridiculous amount of work at a very young age. And I remember in one of my university years, I did twice the cost load of everybody else and kept getting straight top grades and whatever. And my friend asked me, she said, how are you doing this? Because I wasn't just studying, I was involved in a whole bunch of other societies, and I was having a great time. And she said, how are you doing this? How is this even possible? Because, in American universities, maybe you take, 3, maybe 5 courses a semester. I was taking something like 14. And so she just found it impossible. And I just told her this one thing, and it flew out of me. And even now, years later, we still talk about it. And I just said, just realize that everything is bullshit. Which is not meant to be irreverent. It just means that you don't need to hold on to any one thing as, the great truth of your life. You just have to move and keep moving, keep learning, keep growing, and keep realizing there are places where you don't need to look at that time. And it's something I've lived my life by, and it certainly has brought me certain amount of benefits and rewards in my life, and it's also certain areas where people just kind of look at me and go, what? How does that even work? Because especially when you come into the spiritual facilitation, when you come into the, sorry, that was an alarm. When you come into the spiritual facilitation field, people are always looking for that certainty, that knowledge, that, fill me up with your wisdom type stuff. And I basically just go, no. There are certain times, there are certain moments, there are certain conditions under which this naturally happens. My role is to say, these are the times. Just wait. Wait, watch, listen, observe. And all of the things that your guides have been telling you is pretty much what I'm telling you. You're just not listening to them because you don't want to accept what they're saying. Which is not a fun thing for people to hear, but this is what they tend to get. But I guess people just like the way I say it, maybe. But ultimately, yes, today is a good day for you to empty the cup. Know that nobody knows anything. I don't know anything. You don't know anything. At the end of the day, we have transient states of knowledge, being, presence, and understanding, and that's the way things are. So the moment you hold on to anything with too much definition, with too much attachment, with too much ego, you're ultimately going to carve a karmic path for yourself that you don't need. And in this year, I hope that we can actually, all of us collectively, just realize that some of the best things don't need to be said. Some of the best things don't need to be analyzed. They don't need to be understood at a cognitive level because they're already happening. What would help at this time is a spiritual practice to bring compassion to that part of yourself, not just in the now, but yourselves from previous times, from previous lifetimes. And if you can extend that to other people as well. Obviously, if someone doesn't want you to pray for them, respect their free will. But just allow yourself to send that compassion. Allow yourself to fill those spaces of, again, filling, but that fill that discomfort that you may have with not knowing, with the love for yourself that says it's okay to be patient. It's okay to have that pause. And if you're willing to do that, you can actually get yourself out of a lot of karmic pitfalls. Because I know there's this big rush, right? There's this big push. There's this big push to say, you gotta do this, you gotta be this, you gotta understand this, you gotta know this, you've got to attain this, and really you've got to get out of the capitalistic mindset. That's what I would say people have to do. It's not a race. It's really not a race. And in some sense, it's a weird thing. It reminds me of another story. I think it was another Buddhist story I read a long time ago. And I'll never forget it. It was two monks, and both of them were given this mantra. And their teacher just gave them the mantra and didn't tell them what to do with it. So one guy sat under a tree or something and just recited this continuously nonstop, perfect in his observation, perfect in his devotion. And there was a certain time by which they needed to attain whatever this mantra was going to give them. And another fellow, he didn't do anything. He just sat there. He looked at things. He looked at the flowers. He looked at the trees. He looked at the wind. And he just was completely normal. But at the same time, internally, the way I read it was, he was in this deep state of communion with all what were around him. And all he had to do was say the mantra once. And he got it. And the person who was saying it however many thousand times, he got it too. It's just many different paths to the mountaintop, if you want to call it a mountaintop. So, it's the kind of energy where you really just want to go with the flow and let things happen at their own time. And ultimately, you will get what you need to get. And sometimes you won't because you don't need to. Having that level of acceptance on your spiritual path, in your journey, will actually help you overcome many, many, many obstacles in your life. And I've seen this in myself, I've seen this in my clients. But to do that, your first real task needs to be compassion. Start with yourself. Extend to other parts of you that you know. Extend the field to parts of you that you don't know. And then try and extend it to others who are willing to receive it. Compassion is simply a state of profound love and profound acceptance. And that in itself creates what, if you want to call it heavenly or holy or celestial or whatever you want to call it, that in itself allows a being to access higher levels of frequency and energy. And, it is that part of that ascension process. This is also part of one of the Buddhist teachings that actually allow you to pray for whether it's the souls of the departed or someone who really just needs a shift into that higher vibration, so to speak. Again, higher, lower is a human term, but you get what I'm saying. But start with that space and watch what happens. Try to conserve your energy as much as you can. Try to purify your breath. That's another big thing that's coming up at this time. Whether you're using an air purifier or a diffuser, again, please look at oils and the contraindications for them for you, your pets, and those in your environment. Or even if it's just you sitting under a tree, just allow, if you want to, and I would highly recommend this at this time, visualize or ask that the air that you breathe in is purified by whatever understanding of divinity that you have. If it's Buddhism, you ask the medicine Buddha to purify what goes in and comes out. If it's Christianity or Judaism, it is your equivalent of God. If it's Hinduism, Lord Hanuman comes up quite a bit at this time with this energy. Lord Narasimha would also be totally fine. But it is, different systems would have different ways of doing this and purifying this energy in a very, in a different way. Ask whatever system you work with to purify what it is within you that needs to be cleansed through the breath and to remove any negative influences within the breath itself. Do this, and if nothing else, spread this message, as in this part of the message. I'm not asking you to share this video unless you want to. I don't believe in that. You're going to share it if you share it, and if you don't, you don't. But this particular part of it, purify the breath, set intentions for the clearing of the energy that surrounds the breath. And that is my cue for my cat has said, "You have talked enough, mother. Shut up and let people figure it out." So, take care, everyone. Very many blessings, lots and lots of love to all of you. Remember, it's a powerful time to clear a lot of karma. Just do that with grace and start first and foremost with a space of compassion. Cha cha for now. Bye bye.